Hey guys, Mrs. Mills here. All right, today we are going to be doing Module 6, Lesson 11, and a little bit more of comparing and ordering mixed numbers in various forms. So we're going to be working with some decimals and some fractions today, and then plotting them on a number line. So you are going to have to definitely pause at this point, and I want you to get everything down that you see listed on your screen right now. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different numbers at the top, and then there is your number line down at the bottom, and you can tell that I have 1, 2, 3, 4 different whole spots, okay, whole numbers, and, did I just mark those wrong? I think I might have marked those wrong. I sure did. Anyways, and you'll need to break each of those down into tenths. So go ahead and pause, get your paper ready, and then push start when you're ready. All right, as you guys can see, we have a bunch of different numbers to plot on this number line. And once we plot them, we'll be able to tell which one is the least and which one is the greatest. So as you look at these numbers, you want to try and decide, okay, what is my smallest number in this set? And what is my greatest number, the greatest number in this set? And then we can determine, go ahead and determine where to plot some of those numbers. Okay, the easiest thing to do here is to get all of your numbers in the same form. I have unit form, I have decimal, I have a decimal, I have unit, and then I have two fractions. And that makes it quite difficult to plot on a number line. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to put each of these into fractions with hundredths at the bottom, but also with a decimal so that I can see it in both different forms. I'm going to go ahead and do that right underneath. And if you left enough room, you could do it beside it, above it, wherever it's helpful. So 13 hundredths would look like this as a decimal, and this as a fraction, 13 hundredths. Okay, and then we have 17 hundredths. That's already in decimal form, so I just like to go ahead and write it in fraction form. Okay, same with this. We have 2 tenths, which as hundredths would be 20 hundredths, okay, which is also the same as 2 tenths. Divide top and bottom by 10, and you get 2 tenths. Okay, 3 tenths would be written like this, okay, which can also be written like this, which invite that extra 0, right? Or 30 hundredths is equal to 3 tenths. Okay, just recognizing those forms. Then we have 34 hundredths. All we have to do is write that in decimal form. And then we have 4 tenths. We will go ahead and write that in decimal form, in tenths, in hundredths, and then in fraction form, 40 hundredths. So many different ways you can write these fractions. Okay, now that I have that, I think this is going to be easier if I focus on the fraction form. I want to ask myself, okay, where am I going to start my number line? Well, the smallest number in this set is 13 hundredths, and the greatest number, let me go ahead and highlight that. We have 13 hundredths, and my greatest number in this set is 4 tenths. So looking down in that area there. So I can go ahead and get my number line ready by plotting 1 tenth. We're going to look at the tenths place. 1 tenth and 4 tenths at the end. Okay, because I don't have any whole numbers. As you can tell, I have 0 wholes. None of my numbers have 1 to the left of that decimal. So I'm just going to go ahead and look right at my tenths place. I have 1 tenth here, and my greatest tenth is 4 tenths. So I'm going to go ahead and start my number line at 1 tenth. And above it, I'm going to write that in decimal form. So I'm going to use the top of my number line for decimals, the bottom for fractions. And then going to the end of my number line, we'll have 4/10, and above it in fraction form, 4/10. Oops. Okay, and then in between there, we'll have our 2/10 and our 3/10. Decimal form. Here's my 3/10. Okay, now my job will be a little bit easier to plot. Now remember, so each of these equals 1/10, but I have all these little tiny lines in between. Those each equal 1/100ths. All right, so let's go ahead and start with 13/100ths. I have 1/10 and 3/100ths. So starting at 1/10 would be starting right at the beginning here, but then I would need to count up 3 of my hundredths, okay? So 1, 2, 3/100ths. So this is going to be 1/10 plus 3/100ths will give me my 13/100ths, or 0.13. Okay, I'm going to check that off because I plotted it. Now, if we move right in order here, we can go to 17/100ths. Okay, so again, I have 1/10 and 7/100ths. So counting up from my 1/10 and then counting up 7/100ths. 1/100th, 2/100ths, 3/100ths, 4/100ths, 5/100ths, 6/100ths, 7/100ths. So this right here is going to be my 17/100ths, and in decimal form, 0.17. All right, give that a check because I plotted it. All right, moving on. I have 2/10ths or 2/100ths. Okay, lucky for me, I actually already have it plotted. You know, I'm also going to put a nice big dot so that I can tell where the numbers that I'm plotting are. There we go. That's definitely more noticeable. Okay, 3/10ths or 30/100ths. Lucky for me, I already plotted that, so I can just put a nice big dot. Check. 34/100ths. So I have 3/10ths, count up 4/100ths. 1, 2, 3, 4. 34/100ths, or 34/100ths in decimal form. Check. And last but not least, 4/10ths or 4/100ths. I can just go ahead and plot that right at the end there. All right. Now, this is a lot easier for me to compare these numbers. For example, I could say that 2/10ths is less than 3/10ths. Or I could say that 34/100ths is greater than 13/100ths. A lot easier to plot when you have things on your line. Alright guys, you are going to get lots of practice with this on your problem set today. That's why we're only doing one on the video. Good luck, and make sure you ask for help if you need it.